ask a question, Hamza Yusuf. Why did you not suffer in silence instead of making that statement? If it really was an itch for you and you had to say it, why did you not suffer in silence? But no, you had to say it.
I mean, when these people like Ali Dawah were not on the scene so actively, these people, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, were the ones who carried the message of Islam in the modern era brilliantly.
But I really believe that I have been misrepresented. So I really think that it's a difficult time, and I feel the pain. I have the pain myself. We've shed a lot of tears in the last couple of months. I actually spent the last 2 months doing a very deep dive into the Palestinian issue. I read several books on it. I interviewed Chris Hedges. I actually was the one that invited Chris Hedges here to speak. So there's just, this is an age of just a lot of falsehoods.
And the Sheikh Hamza Yusuf message is like this, right? That although we have suffered a lot on this Gaza issue, yet we have to remain steadfast and patient as well, because the time will come where through our patience, through our perseverance, and through our integration and diversity, and we will lead the world, that we are even better in terms of human rights, we are even better in terms of freedom of speech. So with that, we will hold the hand of the West as well and ultimately become the superpower. So this is the hidden context behind this. So I would like to just make a brief comment or brief analysis about this Sheikh Hamza Yusuf statements, and also the reaction of people like Ali Dawah, right?
Now, I believe in this principle as well. Yes, I believe in this principle as well. However, to say that at any cost or any shape or form that there is no certain legislation in place that you can rebel, depending on conditions, and I believe the harm is greater than the good. But the point is what? That they are going to levels of basically telling the Palestinians that you should suffer in silence. I want to ask a question, Hamza Yusuf. Why did you not suffer in silence instead of making that statement? If it really was an itch for you and you had to say it, why did you not suffer in silence? But no, you had to say it. Why? Because you believe it's the right thing to do, very bizarrely. But very interestingly, look what happens next.
It's of survival, but it doesn't mean it's final. Get this next word. You see it? It's okay. It's like, no, it's to leave the building. That's good.
So somebody pulled alarm bell, and also people were angry and enraged of the comments that he made. It is very easy. I would have expected this from Faris Hamadi, who's on the payroll. Yeah, I would have expected this from him. Yeah, him laughing about the issue and giggling and laughing, etc. But no, now we're seeing individuals like Hamza Yusuf clearly, outright saying victims suffer in silence. It's well and good for you, my friend. It is.
Now, I am a massive supporter of both of these people, right? The works that these people do are very different, but both of their works are unique and adds to strengthening Islamic message. So I support both of them, but I would like to say something in defense of Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, I think, and a little suggestion to Mr. Ali Dawah would be that in this time where the entire Muslim community needs to unite, I think we should stay away from casting doubt upon each other, right? I think that's a fair suggestion. And also, whenever somebody like Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, who has done spectacular works for Islam in the modern era, not in terms of just politics, Islamic politics, but also in terms of Islamic philosophy, spirituality, I think his works are probably the best in terms of the modern era. So people like Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, who are a brand and have done such an extensive work for decades now, I mean, when these people like Ali Dawah were not on the scene so actively, these people, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, were the ones who carried the message of Islam in the modern era brilliantly. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, Professor Timothy Winter, Tariq Ramadan, all these people did a tremendous job 20 to 30 years back. These people did a tremendous job. So when these people make statements like that you have to suffer in silence, and this statement has been misrepresented and Sheikh Hamza Yusuf has actually said that it has been misrepresented. But still there is some connotation attached that suffer in silence means like somehow just ignore that. Now I would like to say that whenever a scholar or scholars make such kind of statements, one needs to contextualize it with their past history and their ideology as a whole, about not just Islam but also Muslim Ummah. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf is a public voice, and his statements are not just for one Muslim country, two Muslim countries. His comments are sometimes for entire Muslim Ummah.
But I really believe that I have been misrepresented. So I really think that I've never called for normalization. I've always supported the Palestinian. I wrote the Dawah al-Nasri, which is a book. I wrote that and dedicated it to the Palestinian people. I have some of my dear friends here that came with me from California are Palestinians. Yesterday, a man from Gaza actually came to me and just thanked me for helping him get his Islam back. So I know there's people. I received a message during this whole crisis from Gaza, and actually Kim Iverson had me interviewed me because somebody from Gaza who she met in Palestine, actually from the West Bank, sorry, actually told her, when you go back, please interview this person. So inshallah, like I said, it's a difficult time and I feel the pain. I have the pain myself. We've shed a lot of tears in the last couple of months. I actually spent the last 2 months doing a very deep dive into the Palestinian issue. I read several books on it. I interviewed Chris Hedges. I actually was one that invited Chris Hedges here to speak. So, and I think Chris Hedges, he articulates very much my views about it. So I just feel like I've been misrepresented, but that's okay also. There's just, this is an age of just a lot of falsehoods. The Prophet ﷺ said, يُصَدِّقَ الْكَاذِبُ وَيُكَذِّبَ الصَّادِقُ, that the truthful one would be called a liar and the liar would be called a truthful one. It's just part of the time we're living in. There's a lot of, it's a cancel culture. But I think it's important to remember the Prophet ﷺ he always had dialogue. He always listened to people. One of his sunnahs is not to interrupt people when they're speaking. You can disagree with people, it's okay.
And I would like to say that the Muslim Ummah, in defending Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, the Muslim Ummah has a lot of diversity, which is a brilliant thing for us. We are a moderate nation, so diversity is a good thing. On this Gaza and Palestine issue, let me make a big point. We have, I think, the best diversity at the moment, where there are countries like Egypt, countries like Lebanon, Yemen, and Iran. So these type of countries can take a military role in resolving this issue of fighting Israel militarily and all these kind of things. Then we have other countries like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and these kind of countries, Turkey, who can make a diplomatic stance in resolving these issues. So there is a good diversity among the Muslim nations, that we also have these countries who can take a military stance in resolving this issue, and also those countries who can take a diplomatic stance in resolving these issues. Now, you also have to understand that Sheikh Hamza Yusuf is not somebody who speaks just on resolving the Gaza issue. And I also think like this. I have been following his speeches as well for a long time, and I know that as a whole, the entire Muslim Ummah, we want to become superpower again. This is a hidden secret. We want to become a superpower again. Why? Because we are the best nation in terms of morality, right? We are the best nation in terms of morality. So it is best that we become the torchbearers of the global politics, the global world order. We become that, right? So in this context, where we start thinking ourselves, the Muslim countries, the Middle East countries, as the superpower of the world, including subcontinent like Pakistan, as the superpower of the world, then our diplomatic stance should be such strong that we can even integrate countries like the United States of America. Yes, let's say it. Our diplomatic stance, our diversity is the best. So after resolving this Gaza issue and Palestine issue, our diplomatic stance and will be so high, inshallah, that we will become the superpowers and we will integrate countries like the West and like the European countries as well. And this is exactly the mindset of the Muslim Ummah. It should be the mindset of the Muslim Ummah and Sheikh Hamza Yusuf as well. I mean, if Muslims want to become a superpower, we have to integrate countries like the United States of America and the European countries, because their leaders have failed them. We can see that on the Gaza issue. Their leaders have failed them. They don't care about democracy. So now Muslims are the best people in terms of morality. And the Sheikh Hamza Yusuf message is like this, right? That although we have suffered a lot on this Gaza issue, yet we have to remain steadfast and patient as well, because the time will come where through our patience, through our perseverance, and through our integration and diversity, and we will lead the world, that we are even better in terms of human rights, we are even better in terms of freedom of speech. So with that, we will hold the hand of the West as well and ultimately become the superpower. So this is the hidden context behind this. When he says suffer in silence, it is referring to those Muslim countries who can take a diplomatic stance as well. So my advice would be that there is no harm. It's a good thing that we have those Muslim countries as well who want to resolve these issues diplomatically on a table, using reason, using rationality, using peace, using peaceful contracts. This is a good thing as well. And with that, Assalamu alaikum.
When we look at Palestine right now and look at the madness that's taking place there, and Palestine is the meeting of two worlds. That's all Palestine is. If you want to understand Palestine, all you have to understand is that half of this planet lives on less than $2 a day. Right? And we in the West consume 60% of the world's resources, even though we are less than 10% of the inhabitants of the planet. And where do those two civilizations meet? They meet in Palestine. Because Palestine is taking people from the West and planting them in the midst of a society that has been too long exploited and had its resources expropriated, lived under despotism, largely due to post-colonial traumatic syndrome. And most people are too busy watching the important messages from our sponsors to bother to actually read a book about the history of the Middle East, about colonialism. I mean, just read David Fromkin's A Peace to End All Peace, right? Most people are too busy to realize that most of what's going on in the West that's troubling us is what they call blowback. In CIA parlance, blowback, the unsuspected consequences or unforeseen consequences of our own covert activities.